The courtroom was dead silent, save for the faint hum of the projector warming up. Then, like a thunderclap, the VY Deo roared to life on the massive screen, and a collective gasp ripped through the room. There she was, Lillian Harper, or as everyone in our cul-de-sac called her, the neighborhood warden. Her face, twisted with fury, filled the screen as she bellowed at my kids in our own backyard. I'll never forget the way her designer purse swung like a pendulum, her manicured nails jabbing toward my terrified children, her voice hitting that shrill, unmistakable pitch that had already made her a social media VY lane. "Those little pests don't belong in this community," she shrieked, snatching a baseball bat from beside our garden shed and swinging it with venom, smashing our solar lights into glittering shards. I stole a glance at Lillian, perched at the plaintiff's table in her pristine navy blazer, her face now ashen, drained of its usual haughty glow. The footage didn't lie, it was crystal clear, capturing every venomous word, every wild gesture. When the VY Deo showed her threatening to call childcare VYCS because our eyesore swing set was tanking property values, her eyes widened, pure panic flickering in them. This wasn't how she'd NVYCO'd her defamation lawsuit against me playing out. The judge's face, once politely neutral, now radiated disgust. As the clip ended, Lillian clutched her chest, her gasp theatrical, and slumped forward, sliding off her chair to the floor in a heap. Her attorney froze, mortified, as whispers buzzed through the courtroom. The judge banged his gavel, calling for order, while a court officer knelt to check her pulse. Moments later, Lillian's eyes fluttered open, her perfectly styled auburn hair now a disheveled mess. "It's fake," she screamed, her voice cracking like glass. "They doctored it. That's not me." Her wild gaze darted around, begging for some unianito by her story. The judge's gavel cracked again, sharp and final. "Mrs. Harper, compose yourself, or you'll be removed," he warned, his tone icy. That's when Lillian lost it completely. "This is a setup," she shrieked, pointing at me. "He's out to ruin me because I uphold standards. Look at him, smirking's a monster." The judge nodded to the bailiffs, who moved in swiftly. "Mrs. Harper, you are in contempt," he declared, his voice slicing through her protests. As they escorted her out, her wails echoed, but the real story started 6 months earlier. We just moved into Crestwood Heights, a postcard-perfect suburb with flawless lawns and a homeowners association that ruled with an iron fist. I'm a structural engineer, my wife's a pediatrician, and we'd scrimped for years to buy a home here for our 16-year-old Sophie and 7-year-old Lyman, a top school district. The welcome letter from the HOA, signed by Lillian Harper herself, wasn't exactly warm. It was a 6-page manifesto of rules, each one more absurd than the last. I read it cover to cover, determined to play by the book. But I hadn't counted on Lillian's zeal for control. Trouble started when I built a simple wooden play set in our fenced backyard for the kids' birthdays. I double-checked the HOA released no restrictions on play sets if they weren't VY-sible from the street, and ours was tucked behind a privacy fence. I even stained it a muted brown to blend in. Sophie and Liam were over the moon, swinging and climbing while my wife and I sipped coffee on the patio, finally feeling settled. 3 days later, a neon yellow notice was taped to our door. Violation. Unauthorized structure. Remove within 48 hours or face due la 100 daily fines. Lillian's signature was scrawled at the bottom, complete with a taunting smiley face sticker. I called her immediately. "The playset's within regulations," I said, keeping my cool. "It's not VY-sible from the street, and there's no rule against it." Her laugh was sharp, dripping with condescension. "I can see it from my upstairs window, which makes it a VY-olation. The bylaws ban unsightly structures." I pushed back. "Visibility from your private window isn't in the rules, and it's not unsightly." Her voice turned cold. "I'm the HOA president. I decide what's unsightly. Remove it or pay the price." What followed was a 2-month campaign of harassment. Lillian parked her gleaming SUV across from our house daily, snapping photos of our property. She slapped us with VY-olations for nonsense grass slightly too long, A bike left on the porch for 10 minutes, window trim that was the wrong shade of ivory. One day, I caught her measuring the gap between our mailbox and the curb with a tape measure. When we didn't dismantle the playset, she upped the ante. She started cornering Sophie and Liam at the bus stop, telling them their dad was a lawbreaker. She ambushed my wife at the grocery store, loudly proclaiming we were lowering the neighborhood's class with our tacky playground. At an HOA meeting, she proposed a new rule banning any recreational equipment over 4 feet tall clearly aimed at us. The breaking point came on a Saturday morning. I was flipping pancakes when Sophie's scream pierced the air. I sprinted outside to find Lillian by the playset, garden shears in hand, hacking at the swings rope while Sophie sobbed. Liam cowered under the slide, trembling. "What are you doing?" I shouted, stepping between her and my kids. "You're trespassing." Lillian's face contorted. "This junk is ruining our property values. I've warned you." She waved the shears inches from my face, claiming her authority as HOA president to remove violations herself. I sent the kids inside, never breaking eye contact. "You have no legal right to be here or destroy our property," I said, voice steady. "Leave, or I'm calling the police." That's when she snapped. She launched into a tirade, pacing our yard, ranting about outsiders like us destroying Crestwood Heights. Then, to my horror, she grabbed a baseball bat Liam had left by the shed and started smashing our solar lights, one by one. "You wanted to find me?" she screamed, shattering a ceramic planter. She hurled insults about my parenting, my job, even threatened to have my kids taken away. What she didn't know was that I'd installed security cameras the week before. Every moment her threats, her vandalism was captured in high def with pristine audio. I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. "There's an intruder destroying my property and threatening my family," I told the dispatcher, keeping calm as Lillian raged. When she heard "police," she froze, bat raised mid-swing. For a split second, she seemed to grasp the GRAVY tie of her actions. Then, with a final kick at the broken lights, she stormed off, yelling, "The HOA will seize your house for this." The police arrived minutes later, reviewed the footage, and were appalled. "Clear case of trespassing, vandalism, and menacing," one officer said. "Add VY Sing Me to file a restraining order and share the VY Deo with the HOA board." I sent the footage to the board with a formal complaint. By the next morning, someone had leaked it. Within 48 hours, Backyard Warden Loses It had racked up millions of VYUs. Local news jumped on it, then national outlets. Comment sections erupted with outrage as people watched a grown woman terrorize kids over a swing set. Lillian's real estate firm put her on leave. The HOA board suspended her presidency. Neighbors I'd never met dropped off cookies and shared their own stories of Lillian's tyranny. I stayed quiet publicly, declining VYUs and urging others not to harass her family. "This isn't about revenge," I told them. "It's about protecting my kids." Lillian, though, went on the offensive. She hired a lawyer and sued me for defamation, claiming I'd edited the VY Deo to make her look unhinged and shared it to ruin her. She demanded Dula $500,000 for emotional distress and reputational damage. Which brings us back to that courtroom. After her contempt charge and removal, the judge called a recess. When court resumed, Lillian was back, mascara streaking her face, but quieter. The judge didn't mince words. "This court finds no EVY Denke of VY Deo tampering," he said. The plaintiff's own expert confirmed its authenticity. "I'm dismissing this suit with prejudice and referring Mrs. Harper to the DA for perjury, false claims, trespassing, vandalism, and threats against a minor." He fixed her with a stern look. "Mrs. Harper will also pay the defendant's legal fees in full. Officers, take her into custody." As the handcuffs clicked around her wrists, Lillian's shock was palpable. "You can't do this," she wailed. "I've run the HOA for 8 years. The officer read her rights as she was led away, her cries fading. "It's just a swing set. They're destroying me." That afternoon, the DA filed charges carrying up to 2 years in prison and hefty fines. That night, the HOA voted to dismantle its draconian structure for a fairer system. Lillian's husband listed their house for sale the next day. I stood on my porch that evening, watching Sophie and Liam laugh and swing, the sunset painting the sky gold. That simple playset, the spark of all this chaos, stood strong. Justice, it seems, find a way. What do you think? Did Lillian deserve her downfall? Or was she just a product of unchecked power? Should HOAs have this much control over our homes? And what would you have done if my shoes fought back or torn down a playset? Drop your thoughts below. Hit that like button if this story got your blood pumping, and subscribe for more real-life drama.